Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. All right, today we are here with Chris Gilbert, who is the president and founder of Security Pros. Really excited to hear this story, share this story. I've actually known Chris a long time, so I'm looking forward to you hearing this story and just catching up with him, see what's going on. So Chris, why don't you first just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about what you do at Security Pros.
Sure. Thanks, John. Like I said, I'm Chris with Security Pros. We do a lot of electronic security and surveillance for commercial applications in today's environment all over the world. So started off kind of small and then it's kind of blown up all over the world. So we're excited to bring security technology and operational things back to business. That's what we do.
Yeah, cool. So you started about 16 years ago, 2009. Tell us about what motivated you to want to start your own business and kind of that early startup days.
Well, motivated or forced, one of the two. I don't know which one's better, but I can tell you the story. I worked for a very large integration company all over the world, biggest in the world at the time. Started out very small. I was an installer, putting systems in people's houses. I was 20 years old, and that's what I knew what to do. And one thing sort of led to the next. I got into sales, ended up in leadership and management, and I was flying back and forth from Louisville, Kentucky to Baltimore, Maryland every single week. Did it for about a year and a half. And basically the way that worked, there's 10 years in that industry or in that company. And I went from an installer, which was the day-to-day field-based stuff, all the way to running a $90 million P&L up in DC, Baltimore. And just, didn't go to college. I just knew how to work hard, be the first one there, last one to leave was kind of my deal whenever I first started. But whenever I did some things there, got into some Six Sigma projects with what I was doing that I thought was common sense, ended up being Six Sigma projects. And that led me into some corporate job opportunities and spent a lot of time up there. And it was really great. But in reality, the recession was setting in. They gave me a relocation package to move my family up there. And I was the first person in that relocation package where they would not buy my house. Okay. So they wouldn't buy my house. I couldn't buy a house because apparently DC didn't go through the recession, but everybody else did.
Right.
So all the housing prices were 3 times. I could live in a concrete block house up there, or I could keep my family here and I could fly back and forth. So I spent a year and a half. I took over the number 17 area in the country out of 17 at the time. And so I took over the last on the list. And I basically lived on hotel points. And another buddy of mine that was doing the same kind of thing, we would share rooms to keep costs down. And I did that for about a year and a half. Throughout that entire experience, we took it from number 17 to number 4.
Oh,
and
wow.
So we were able to flip that entire business and get it all, bring it back to the top 5. And a year and a half later, I said, you know what? I fixed it. I want to see my kids. And I decided to come home. The day I made that decision was a tough one. I had to load my kids. We had 2 cars, one in Baltimore, one here. And I got out of the car at the airport at 5 a.m. My wife at the time took me to the place. My kids were in the car crying. I was crying. Everybody's crying. And the people at the Sky Cap were like, "Hey, Chris, you going back to Baltimore?" And I'm like, "Why do you know my name?" And I really don't think you're supposed to know what my name is. And so
when the sky cap at the airport knows your name, you're traveling too much.
it was bad. It was bad. And everything felt wrong. And I literally got on the plane. I was tore up all the way to Baltimore. It was an hour and 15 minutes. I can remember it to this day. It was the 6 a.m. flight from Louisville to Baltimore. And I got there and I called my boss and said, "Hey, I got to talk to you." And he's like, "I've been waiting for this phone call." And that was the day I decided I've got to do something else. And I wanted to come home. And that was the trigger that kind of got the ball rolling to head down the path of starting my own business. Now there's a couple of years in there that I bounced around, but we can obviously get into that. But that was the decision to say, hey, listen, I'm not doing corporate life anymore. I'm going to find something else. I didn't know what it was. I just knew I had to get back to Louisville, Kentucky and do something different. And
Yeah.
that was one of the trigger points for me.
Yeah. That 6 a.m. Southwest flight to Baltimore is that
Yep. I
I've
remember
made
the
it many
name.
times
I'll never forget.
over the years as well.
Yep.
Life, parallel life, slightly different time frame.
That's right.
That's funny, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Is there as far as just life on the road? You know, this I always joke about work-life balance isn't really a real thing, but when it's out of balance, way out of balance, we know it. And
Well, and I heard
and
Jeff Bezos said something about it's not work-life balance, it's more about harmony. And is it working with what
yeah,
you're doing? And I really took that. Sadly, I just read that 2 or 3 weeks ago. So
yeah,
just now kind of getting into that mindset and thinking about that. And does it really make sense? And I think we're falling into that now. It's sad that it takes people so long to figure that out. But yeah, I think
yeah, yeah. The phrase I like to use is aligned.
yeah,
It's aligned with where we want to be, you
yep,
know.
absolutely.
And everybody has a different level of alignment. Some people are okay with a certain amount. We're all on a continuum, but you have to
Yep,
know where that is, and your business has to line up with that.
that's right. That's right.
So tell us a little bit about the early years of Security Pros. What were some of the big challenges you faced out of the gate?
Well, like I said, those couple of years there, I got calls to want me to come different places and do different things for different organizations, and I just kept I bounced around a little. I did some consulting. I found took a couple jobs, but nothing really honed in like security did. Security is in my blood, and I just couldn't seem to shake the feeling that I got to do something that's important. And a lot of what I was doing or what I was helping other companies do didn't really fulfill what I needed inside to really, wake up every day and just be excited to go to work, right?
Yeah,
And I've always slept really well at night, knowing that what I'm doing is helping somebody, or it's securing a site, or it's doing something in a public space to help the police department do a better job, or something like that. And I needed that in my life, and it took a little bit to find it. But I was working for a manufacturer, and I went down to Tennessee, down to Nashville, and I walked into the door, and the business owner was there, and he goes, yeah, I need some training. He goes, train the new people. And I was like, well, okay. So I walked in there to train the new people, and basically they didn't even know how to go to market. And I'm like, well, how are you going to sell the product I'm here to show you if you can't even tell where your customers are? Right. And so
yeah,
I dove in, I brought all my territory management skills back to bear and did all the things. And the owner walked by and he goes, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm teaching them how to go to market. He goes, stop. He goes, my entire company needs to hear what you're doing. And so he brought his whole operation in, and I spoke to them for 2 hours in the afternoon. And I was really, really proud of myself. I'm driving home. I'm in Bowling Green. Still got a couple hours to drive, and I was on cloud nine. I was so excited, and I realized it went from cloud nine excited to, oh my gosh, what have I done, in like a split second. And I'm like,
yeah,
I just put that dude in business. I just fixed his entire operation and fixed his whole company. And I'm like, I can do
yeah,
this by myself. And so my next phone call was to my boss at the time, who happened to be a friend of mine. And I said, hey, man, you got to fire me or I'm quitting, and I'll be your best dealer. And he laughed, and he literally laughed at me. And I said, I'm serious. If you fire me, or I'm going to quit, and I will be your very best dealer. And last year, 23, we got dealer of the year for them. And
yeah.
so that did come to fruition, and I made sure he handed me the award. And so uh, it was awesome. It was awesome. We had our great time doing it. But that was the impetus of Security Pros and how it started. Now, there's a really hard road from saying you're going to do it to actually pulling it off. And once we started, it started with as simple as I had to give away some equipment, and I put a system in a person's house, and I got $25 a month off of it. So the first deal, I had to eat $1,500 worth of equipment, and I got 25 bucks a month. And I just knew I needed a monthly recurring service to do something with and to build a business on. And that was kind of the very first deal ever. And then obviously when we met, it was my very first commercial deal ever.
Yeah,
It's a big piece. I was the install. I was pulling wire. I was doing all the things,
yeah,
and I had to do all that. And today, obviously, we have teams doing that and a bunch of other things happening. But the beginning of this was just a ton of hard work and dedication, and knowing that no matter what obstacle I was going to face, I was going to overcome it. It didn't matter what it was. And so you're in the middle of a recession, you say start a business, everybody thinks you're crazy. And I think most times when you start something, people think you're crazy because they can't do it or they can't imagine doing it themselves.
Right.
I dove in there and I started doing it. I didn't watch the news for like 3 years because all anybody would talk about was how bad the economy was. I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
I got to eat food tonight, and my kids want to have pizza on Friday. And it was Tostino's pizza. That was the only way I could get anything done. But it was like, I'm like, this is going to take a ton of hard work. And it just took, for about 3 or 4 years, it was just an unbelievable amount of effort
Yeah.
to get the thing off the ground. And that's the very beginning. So,
Yeah. There's that grind that people, that aren't in the
yeah,
books in business school and aren't on the TikTok videos, people, showing, but I see it over and over again when I talk to founders. That initial grind is tough. You had
it is.
recession, I had COVID at the start of mine, and we were
Yeah.
talking about a little bit of that. And I had that same, funny you talked about that all those people who doubted you. I had that fear of, I tell people I would sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and I'd be having this dream that I'm having a cardboard I got the cardboard sign down
Yep.
down on the corner, and people are driving by. They're waving at me. They're all the ones that said, "Don't do that. Don't start a
Right.
business."
Well, that keeps you going, right? That fear of
Oh
failure,
yeah,
fear of having to somebody walk up and say, "I told you so." Like they're going to do that, and it's like I'm not going to let that happen to me. And that's
yeah,
that's that fire that you just can't seem to shake. And I think some
yeah,
people have it. I think a lot of people give up right before it's supposed to be good, you know. And
yeah,
I know that moment too. I've been doing it for a minute, and like I said, I'd ran national organizations and national sales, and um, I literally had a sticker on my door. I could not pay my taxes. I cashed in my retirement, my 401k to cash flow my house while I built the business. And I was at the end of that. I was down to the end of that. I had to make a
yeah.
decision between a house payment and paying the taxes on the house payment on the house. And the county came and stuck a sticker on my front door that said they were coming to take our house away. Luckily, I had kept our previous house that was like a $300 a month house payment, and at the time, which is unheard of now.
Right.
But that was our lifeboat in case something bad happened. I could probably figure out $300, right?
Yeah.
And we were actually adding up what can we take with us and what we're going to have to leave. And I got a phone call from the at that time the second largest security provider in the country. My old boss had gone to work for them, and he goes, "Chris, I want you to come work over here, and I want you to run the whole country." And he said, "It's twice what you used to make." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like that's big dollars. It's big dollars in today's environment.
Yeah.
And imagine that in 2007, 2008,
Right.
right?" And I'm walking around the backyard, and my ex-wife, she's like looking in the window, like, "What are you gonna do?" Because like there's a sticker on my door. And I asked him, I said, "Well, how much travel time?" And he said 80, 90%. And I said, "I'm not taking it." And he goes, "But Chris," and I'm like, "I'm not taking it. I'm
Yeah.
gonna watch my kids grow up." And that you have to make that same commitment over and over and over again to get that thing to go. And the world will make it as hard as they possibly can on you, and you have to keep going. And I can't believe I turned down that job to this day because it would have saved it. But like a week later, I got a deal, and the deposit saved my house.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to get out of there. And next thing you know, it started going through the roof. And
Yeah.
that was the turning point. And if I would have jumped ship right then, this would have never happened.
Yeah.
So,
And you would have lost so much that you
oh
had
yeah,
invested too. I mean, it's, yeah, we all have those moments where we go, gosh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Uh,
yep,
and I remember a speaker once I heard said, "Quit shouldn't all over yourself."
yeah, that's hilarious.
I thought that was a pretty good one.
Yep,
But yeah,
yep,
I mean, perseverance, that tough spot, man, that's inspiring because that's what it takes.
it is.
And I mean, that moment of clear, you had a moment of clarity there when he said 80, 85, 90% travel, and you went, no,
Now,
your values were clear. You were aligned with those. That's a beautiful thing.
no,
We'll
yeah, I
talk
had
about
a
the growth of Security Pros now, because you're I mean, I don't know if you're the largest in the region, but boy, it seems like I see your trucks everywhere.
Uh,
I know you work with some folks that I work with, so um, you've you've grown tremendously. Tell us about that journey.
sure. So, like I said, we started small. We had some houses, we had small business. Um, as we were over the years, what we've learned is that, we can kind of read the tea leaves a little bit on what's happening in the industry, right? And you see a big push in the security industry. Everybody, when I say security systems, everybody thinks about their house.
Yeah,
And in today's environment, we don't do any houses. Like it's not even on our list. And so we kind of saw that that's going to become a do-it-yourself market space quite a few years ago, and it never really was high on the radar. It was a highly competitive, very low margin, hard to execute, weekend sales appointments and stuff, and it wasn't
yeah,
in our goals and strategy. So we helped our customers migrate to something else a few years back and concentrated solely on commercial. So when we made that move, we got really, really good at about 14 vertical markets or market segments that we just knew needed what we do. And we provide a heavy value back to those particular markets. It made a lot of sense to us. And that's where we spent most of our time. And we did that through analysis. Over the years, we just worked organically. And then we started analyzing where we'd been working. And then we had COVID hit and we doubled the size of the company in COVID. And it was like, well, how did that happen? Oh, look at the markets. They never change. And these markets never go down. And whenever bad things, we didn't have any restaurants on our list. We didn't have any small businesses on our list. We didn't have any mom and pop shops, no houses. And it's like, we've got certain markets that just never, ever, ever are going to shut down. And so we do a lot of municipal space. We do a lot in trucking. And so you start thinking about that. When are they not going to have schools? When are you not going to have something on a semi truck? And when are you not going to
yeah,
have city government, right? That's just not going to happen. And so
right.
we really doubled down on that, and we really doubled down on that effort. And that's really what sort of set the trajectory for us. And when COVID hit, people started looking more, obviously, remote work and all the same things you hear on every other call or podcasting that you ever see. But for us, what it meant was people looked at our technology in a different way that they never had before. And so they started looking at it going, okay, we could outsource this, or we can host this virtually, or we could do something else. And as long as the security standards were in place, the ISO certs and things like that, SOC 2 compliances and all that stuff, they made sense. So during COVID, pre-COVID, I'm talking to customers, hey, everything's going to the cloud. It's going to be a little easier. You got way smarter technology is coming, AI is coming, all these things are coming. And they're like, we'll never go to the cloud. You can forget it. COVID hits 3 weeks in. Two customers that told me they would never, ever, ever go called me within 2 weeks and said, we got to go to the cloud right now as fast as you can go.
Yeah,
And hundreds and hundreds of cameras all over the country. And off we went with the cloud.
yeah,
And so we put a lot of our time and effort into recurring services on the back end of security technology. And
yeah.
that's what really fueled our growth and fueled our stability after COVID, helped us double. And now we're looking to try to double again by the end of 26. That's what our target is. So
Wow, awesome. Yeah, it's amazing how COVID took different industries. I mean, we're here on Zoom, right? And
yep,
when you and I first met, I was in that video communications
yep,
industry, and we were
mhm,
selling $100,000 pieces of equipment to do what we
yep,
do on our laptop today.
exactly.
And I believe me, I saw that coming too. I was watching the
Yep,
tea leaves and going, "There's going to be a day where we're not going to have these big, expensive video conferencing systems."
that's
And
right.
I was right, but there were people in 2019 said, no, we're going to fly. We're going to meet in person. I don't believe in virtual meetings. And boy,
Yep,
now it's, now there are some people who have gone back to that, but not many.
yep. We
I
do
think
it,
this is my
do it sparingly,
fifth
right?
Zoom call of the day.
Exactly. Like we do a ton of these. We do a lot of video chats and a lot of that, and we meet customers. I will say that one of the things that we've always said is we won't do business with somebody we haven't shaken their hand.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that that continues, and we want to make sure that we use the technology to our advantage. But typically, we may meet somebody on Zoom or on Teams or something and get an understanding of what they want to accomplish. But at some point early on in the game, number one, we got to see the location anyway before we can design anything.
Sure.
And number two, we want to shake their hand and let them know that we're human beings and you get to meet our team when you work with us. And
Yeah.
staying true to those basics has given us a very strong connection to our clients. And I've got customers calling me and texting me and emailing me now. I get very few of them anymore, but they will message back and I'm like, hey, really appreciate this. They like being part of our story. And that's
Yeah.
been a very powerful retaining tool for us over the years, is to stay as human as we can in this
Yeah.
technology world that we're living in, right? It's really tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm the same way. I, I don't like, I have some clients I have to meet with virtually because they're too far away, but I like to get in front of them as often as I possibly can
Yeah.
for that same reason. And so niching down grew your business, and it's amazing. I have this conversation with my clients a lot who are like, oh, I want to serve, I want to be all things to all people, and you know, making that decision to go, no, we're not going to do this. We're not going to do restaurants. We're not going to do houses. How difficult was that in a time where you worried about, cutting one hand off?
Well, I think one of the hard things for entrepreneurs, and I see this a lot in our industry. I speak nationally at a lot of our national events and national shows, and I get to hear a lot of integrators like me that have started their own thing and built it up over the years. Our industry is very similar to electricians or plumbers. They get paid by the job, they get paid for parts and pieces and get paid for labor. And if something breaks, they come fix it and they get paid. And that's how they built their organization, right? When one of the things that they haven't done is they haven't shifted. And the whole adage, shift or die, or all that stuff, that is a reality. And once they got stuck in that mode of getting paid for what you do, then you have a really hard time pulling yourself out of it. And especially if you're making a lot of money, you got 25 trucks on the road and everybody's making money every day. And I feel like it's easy to quantify. I make this much an hour. I need another truck, I'll make this much more an
Sure.
hour. And what we're doing today is we're looking at how can we augment the staff that we have and maybe do twice the work with the same amount of people without, it doesn't take people to earn the revenue like it used to, right? Look at a data center. You got 6 people working in a data center, but it's making millions and millions and millions of dollars. How can we duplicate that in the security industry? And we're looking at bringing on services that bring high value to those key vertical markets and put more money in our pocket and give our team profit sharing and change the game. So how did we get rid of some of that? Like I said, and I think it was in 17, we did an analysis of where are we doing business and how profitable is it and what's going on and how, do they really need us? And after that analysis, we looked at it and was like, whew, these are super high maintenance. We don't make hardly any money. They have a bad impact. If we screw up somebody's house door system for $15 a month, they may tell 50 people that we're a terrible business and we'll never get a commercial job again that makes us thousands of dollars a month. And so we're like, okay, the risk reward was just off for us. And at that time, I guess I was close enough to the front line to say, you know what, it stops today. And I just pulled the plug because it was a hard shift and the team sometimes doesn't always understand. But I was very lucky to have a team behind me that said, you know what, we believe in what you're trying to accomplish here, Chris. We see what you're doing. Maybe they couldn't understand every little move I was making, but they knew they wanted to take the ride with me. And that was a huge piece of why we've been successful is the team not only believes in what I'm trying to accomplish, they bring their own talents to help us get where we want to go, right? And picking the right team, having the right people is absolutely the best thing that we've ever done. It's been the best move. It's not the parts you pick. It's not the manufacturers you choose. It's not the products you sell. It's 100% the people that are delivering that back to the other human beings that are buying the products. And if those two things are meshing, you've got a very risky situation with your company is the way I see it. So I was fortunate enough to have people that were willing to make the shift with me and find people that want to take that risk.
That's cool. There's a lot of wisdom in there and about the culture as well. I mean,
yes,
you obviously have a healthy culture in your organization, and that starts from the top.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've doubled in the last couple of years, and you're gonna double again over the next 2 years?
Oh,
What's going to be the secret sauce of that? If you can share, I mean,
sure.
we don't want to
Yeah.
give away too much to your competition, but
Well, it's kind of funny, like I said, I speak at some of these national shows, and we're pretty fortunate to have some relationships out there in the world with our manufacturers, give us a forum to say that. And
Mhm.
a lot of our team get to stand on stage and talk about what we do. Um, I'm a big believer in, everybody learns from everybody else. And I think it's great to learn it, but you also have to execute it. And the execution is the hardest thing in the world. So 99% of this, whatever I'm about to say is it's the execution on the back end that makes it happen.
Yeah.
So what I will tell you is our next moves is going to be deeper connections to our existing customers, because like I said, they don't really go away and they're constantly growing and expanding. And so we got to have a deeper connection to them. And so we're making some effort into that. COVID shifted the way manufacturers work in our industry. So, for example, going into COVID, manufacturers would come out into the world and say, "Hey, we need integrators to put in our products. Let me teach you all about it and go be amazing." Well, as COVID started to hit, I'm like, they're not going to lean on us anymore. Like, these manufacturers are pretty smart. They're going to want to go find their customer and bring us to the game. And so that's literally what is happening right now. Everything is shifting, and the
Hmm.
manufacturers are picking who they're going to bring to the table. They're marketing direct, but they're not selling direct. And so they're bringing us
Interesting.
into the game. And so we've got to have a deep relationship with our partners. We got to have a deep relationship with our customer. And we got to be able to advise and educate the clients on how this technology is shifting, because it's changing at a rate very similar to like the phone business is doing, right? So every year there's a new Apple phone or a new Samsung phone, and it has all these crazy features. And half the people, all they do is answer the phone and check text messages
Right.
and death scroll on
Yeah.
Instagram. So it's like,
Yeah.
does it really matter how cool the phone is? I don't know if it does or not, because people don't even care what the features are. They want three things and they're done. And so
Right.
we have to make those feature shifts provide value for long periods of time back to the client. And so we've put in some people to make sure that the technology is effective for that client in a deep way in their business operation, as well as it has longevity, and we're consistently checking up on it to make sure they're getting that value back. So in no short terms, imagine this. So we've installed thousands of cameras over the years. Today, we can see all those cameras, and AI is watching them. And if a camera gets blurry, we know before the customer knows.
Mm.
So video surveillance technology, you're seeing 1%. Typically, if you record video for a year, a human is only going to look at 1% of that video over the course of the year.
Right.
So 99% of what you're recording, you're never going to see. AI can do that job. And
Yeah.
so AI can, number one, help us service it as a business operation. And it can start to make decisions for us to challenge individuals that are not supposed to. So if I've got someone with a mask and a crowbar walking towards my building, they're probably not supposed to be there.
Right.
Really good chance they're not. AI can make that decision today and say, I'm going to challenge this person and alert the authorities to come do something about it if they don't leave. So AI is taking the human decision-making process out of securing a site, and it's 100% just giving you what you need to see. So that 1% I need to see is the investigation that the AI did after they kicked somebody off of a site.
Right.
So that's what we're bringing to bear, which means we got to be really good at implementing a system, getting it installed properly, making sure that we're seeing all the right angles and all the potential situations, or what we call threat signatures, to work. And then once it's up and running, we're in a maintenance mode. That camera has to work. We got to keep an eye on it, make sure it's functioning properly, make sure we're making adjustments as the sun comes up and goes down, all those types of things. The services side of us becomes heavier. And so the installation or the implementation of jobs is less of a factor than the ongoing monthly services. So imagine every camera
Right.
that every camera that you see is paying a monthly fee now, right?
Yeah.
So that's a level of our growth. We're going to really concentrate on that. Two other spaces that we've looked at is we have completed our franchising program, so we're able to franchise the business if we want. And we're
Wow.
looking really close at acquisition. So as we stack some cash and get some things lined out,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in this industry that simply either they're done trying to shift or they want to bring on the recurring services side of their business and they don't know how to do it. We can be an arm to help make that happen. So we've literally franchised everything out. We've got all the FDDs in place. We've got everything's in place, ready to go. We don't have the first franchisee yet. We've been having probably 3 or 4 conversations a month with people that are interested over the past year. But we haven't pulled the trigger yet. And so they're not quite ready. We haven't been quite ready. So now we got a couple on the hook right now we're talking to. They're getting a little closer. But we're very selective. We don't want to have hundreds of them. We want to be able to, either help an integrator like we have go from where they are to where they want to go, or get somebody started in this industry, and they get to skip over the 30 years of black and white, old school thought process. They get to start with the cool stuff. So.
Well, that's very cool. I know we're running a little long on time, but I want to go back to another thing we talked about before we hopped on. Sure. Is your role changing and to more of a visionary and less into the weeds. Talk about that for a moment.
Absolutely. So, for years we figured out that whenever I would come up with an idea, I could go out there and I could sell it to a customer and boom, we were off and running and the business looked like it was just growing and shifting and changing. And it was very, very easy to make change happen. Then we start layering in people and you start having opinions and technicians and multiple people have to be aware of what's going on. And it's not just whatever Chris says goes anymore. And what we learned is that people were having a hard time translating my visionary thought process into executing efficiently a new product or a service through the business to the customer. And that's a very hard thing to translate. So we instituted EOS. We heard about it. People kept thinking we were running it and we didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
We were already 90% there, we felt like, and people kept bringing it up and go, wow, you guys must do EOS. And we're like, what is that? So we read a couple of books and we realized, like, holy smokes, we're really close. Like, we're already doing a bunch of these things. And so I was lucky enough to have a person on our team, Chelsea. She actually is heavy on the culture side. She's really pushed hard on our culture to make sure that it's right. And she became our implementer. So we're self-implementing EOS. And they've literally kicked me out of the building now. I'm in a different office. There's not even a picture on my wall now. But we've got into this space down here and I'm able to sit with her and come up with where the industry is going, have meetings with people around the country, around the world, and kind of keep an eye on what's happening in the industry and how we're going to shift. And then she helps make sure that those shifts are assigned to the proper teams at the proper amount of pace and time so that they can actually execute them. And it's making us incredibly effective. So we're accomplishing things at a level. I have cold chills half the time. We go into a meeting and we're looking at analytics we didn't even think we had. And we're seeing how effective our teams are being and how it's changing. So my role is almost 100% visionary now. And they're looking to me for minutes of a week, not hours and days. And that's a hard transition. It's hard to watch your baby grow up, right? And I had that happen with my kids and my business all at the same time. And that's a very hard thing to sit back and watch and say, hey, where can I help you guys? Oh, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Got it. I'm gonna go find something else to do. I don't know what it is. So that's kind of where I'm at today.
Yeah. Well, my book is Your Baby is Ugly, because
that's right.
As a founder, there's those times where your baby is ugly, but your baby has grown up and congratulations. I mean, you're one of the so few of the founders I know actually make it to that visionary role. It just doesn't happen that
Everybody
often.
wants to work on it, but not in it. But I don't think they can get there. And that's literally why we started the franchising game, is because I'm sitting in rooms all the time with 50, 60 people like us that they don't know how they're ever going to get there. And then they go to sell their business at the end and they don't have anything of value. There's no recurring services and they're stuck and they work their whole life and they've got nothing. And that's, or it's very small and they want to make those changes. That's why we did the franchising game.
Yeah, that's cool. So if people want to find out more, reach out to you, how to get in touch?
Absolutely. So I've been a little slower on LinkedIn over the past years, but you can definitely find us on LinkedIn. We've got a marketing team that watches that. So it's securitypros-usa.com. You can definitely do some research about us, our history and all that stuff there. Chris Gilbert on LinkedIn. You can look me up. I'm there. It's under Security Pros as well. And you can absolutely find us on all the socials.
Awesome. Well, Chris, this has been I love your story. I knew a lot of it. I learned some more today. And I just appreciate you sharing it. And I know some folks will benefit from it for sure.
I appreciate it, John. Thanks for thinking of us and giving us a chance. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode, where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.